No, here he comes. This is innovative.
Hi, it's Garfield and welcome to Book Buzz. This week we're looking at Inside Steve's Brain by Leander Caney. But before we start, one small piece of housekeeping. This you may recognise as the Book Buzz crown. It could be yours. Maybe even yours, Ron. Back to the book. Inside Steve's Brain. It's not inside Steve's brain. I'm not sure the author's ever met Steve Jobs. If they have, he's not included in the acknowledgements. Anyway, the book is fairly reprehensible, to be honest. It came out first in 2007, the year that Steve Jobs launched the iPhone. And I suppose if you put Steve Jobs on the front cover of any book, it's going to sell. And if you suggest that there's some sort of business acumen to be gained from it, people will buy it too, because Steve Jobs, father of the personal computer, father of the graphical user interface, the guy behind Pixar as a success story, the guy that has basically came back and recreated Apple as the resurgent powerhouse that it is. If you do that, you'll sell books, and that's what this book clearly was meant to do. I don't think it's a particularly good business book. I don't think it's a particularly good book at all, to be honest. I have to admit I haven't actually finished it yet. But I do like one thing about it, and the one thing I like about it is a quote. Let me find it. Yes. As the Romanian sculptor Constantin Brancusi said, simplicity is complexity resolved. Simplicity is complexity resolved. That to me is a brilliant line. Possibly a truism, but it seems to be more than that. And the idea that being something being simple isn't being simplistic, and that simplicity is something that should be strived for rather than something that is ignored, is possibly something that all businesses could learn from. We look at the current, former, future stock market, financial market disasters, and what are they being blamed on? Well, lots of things, including greed. But one of the things is complex financial instruments that nobody really understood. And maybe if we had understood them a bit better, they wouldn't exist in the first place, and we wouldn't be in this unholy mess. And I suppose another matter might be the complexity of canon law, and how that's used as a defence, or is currently used as a defence anyway. We'll see what happens over the next few days. And maybe people don't need to make complex decisions, and maybe if you study a problem for long enough, it isn't actually a complex problem. It's actually quite a simple one. So, one of the other points in the book, especially around the design of the OS X, and one of the design philosophies of Mr. Jobs himself is it is important to decide what you're not going to do. And so iPods, when they came out, they didn't have an FM transmitter, although they could have easily enough. Even the first iPhone didn't have cut and paste. Ridiculous thing. Still a success story. Still a massive success story, in fact. But to some seems incongruous that such a sophisticated device wouldn't even have cut and paste. But I suppose it's down to the minimal viable product, which is another topic of interest of mine. But anyway, so will you be defined by what you decide not to do, for better or for worse? So what you do or what you don't do? I think that's an important question. And it comes back to a theme that I particularly enjoy, which is that of the anti-hero. And as I said in the last book was, maybe the 17-year-olds shouldn't be going off to fight wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and maybe they should just stay at home and standing beside the girl they knocked up at the age of 17. But that's a different subject. I think we discussed that before, otherwise I'm rambling wildly now. Anyway, I'd say buy the book because it's got a few good quotes in it, but it's a homage to Steve Jobs, as clearly this is, done on the iMac, presented on my rather spanky MacBook. But apart from that, you can read it in 2 days. In fact, you can read it in 2 evenings. You can read it, I'd say, if you have an hour commute, you can read it over 5 days easily enough.
It has been noticed.
If you can deal with the fact that the author
Right at
is,
the beginning.
even though he's never met the guy, clearly up Steve Jobs' ass. There's even a quote in here that says, it's alright to be an asshole as long as you're passionate about it, which is frankly ridiculous. In fact, there's lots of ridiculous things in it. But you should read it. You should just take it with a massive pinch of salt. But do remember that simplicity is complexity resolved. And at that, I'm going to leave you with my review of Inside Steve's Brain by Leander Caney. Bye!
Hey.